What is a more delicate accessory for a Venetian Renaissance costume than a fan made of lace? Hey Sunspace Sun, I'm Daisy Victoria, and today we are going to explore this very cute fashion accessory that was found in 16th century Venice, and that is a flag fan made entirely of lace. And that's right, we're gonna make one. Now, one of the many eras that I like to research and learn about, especially costuming focused, is 16th century Venice, Italy. Now, Venice is kind of set apart from the rest of Italy. Their fashion is a little bit different, just like they were a little bit different. So we see in Venice sort of this unique style with the gowns that have this really elegant V front and V in back of the bodice as well. We have the horned hairstyles. We have all kinds of things, and I explored a little bit of that in my Loki video, and you saw that maybe a few years ago. If not, go check it out. One of the things that we see with a lot of these beautiful gowns in this period is a flag fan, and what a fun accessory. Now, flag fans come in a variety of materials and styles, and they kind of evolve over time. You see them in more rigid styles, like a totally woven fabric, or you see them made of parchment, and sometimes lace. There are a lot of really cool images from this period from some of the master painters who feature women from Venice who are holding flag fans of various types. Some of my favorites are the lace ones. I've experimented with some flag fans before. They were really fun. And now that I have access to an embroidery machine, I wanted to try making my own lace flag fan. And naturally I made a couple because you can't really make just one when you're me. So anyway, there are some extant flag fans that we have to look at. One of those flag fans is on display at the MAK Museum in Vienna. And there is a lovely artist who digitized the design for this fan. Her shop name is Art Embroidery, and I'm not sponsored, but she's lovely and she does great embroidery digitizations. Now, this original fan was made of parchment with white silk. So we're doing something a little bit similar using the embroidery file, and I'm going to make my fan essentially just a piece of lace. And I'll show you kind of how I do that. So when I embroider just lace to be lace, I will use some tulle, like a netting fabric, and then I'll embroider directly onto the tulle, and then that creates a lace. And then I just cut away the part that I don't want to remain. So we're gonna see how I do that. It sounds simple. In theory, it is actually a very simple process. You know, embroider the lace out, cut away the parts you don't want, stiffen it, and attach it to a stick to be the handle. Easy peasy. So we'll see how the process goes. It's pretty fun, not too hard. It just takes a little bit of time and patience. As we get started, we need to prepare for our machine embroidery project. I'm taking my tulle, that's just a thin piece of netted fabric, and I'm sandwiching that in between two layers of wash-away stabilizer. Now, it's important that it's wash-away so it will not be present at all in the final product. I'm putting this onto an embroidery hoop, and this is the one that goes with the embroidery machine that I will be using. This particular machine is at my local maker space, and it's the one that I learned to use an embroidery machine with. Now, you want to make sure you tighten the embroidery hoop, especially when you have really thin fabrics in there. They really want to slide around. So the less you can get them to slide around, the better. So I like to tighten them in here really nice and good and tight in the hoop before I get started. My embroidery file came from Art Embroidery, and it is a copy of an extant fan, which is on display at a museum. In order to use this file, I just take it on my thumb drive and put it into the embroidery machine and load up the file. Now, some machines will have different setups. For this particular machine, the embroidery hoop loads here at the side. So basically you just follow the machine's instructions. So I'm loading it in here, getting it all ready to get going. And then we sit back and we watch, and we do other things that we might need to get done at the same time. I definitely did need to babysit this embroidery. One of the biggest limitations is that the bobbin doesn't really go that far. So this is like a lot of stitches. It took hours and hours to stitch these out. So that meant I had to change the bobbin thread quite a few times. I think it's so amazing what's possible with an embroidery machine. Like, you can just replicate this amazing fan. You can replicate a lot of things. You can do so much with the embroidery machine. So after several hours of stitching this out, we have our flag fan. At this point, we can pop it out of the embroidery hoop, and then we're going to actually turn it into a fan. So first we need to cut away all the excess, and you want to cut as close to your embroidery as possible here. We will be cutting all the way up to the embroidery, in fact, and then we will be rinsing away the wash away stabilizer. So it's good to cut away as much of it as possible. First of all, because we don't want any excess tulle besides where we're actually going to have the lace for the fan, but also the less of the wash away stabilizer you rinse down the drain, the better. So just consider this is all going to be rinsed away, and it's a little bit goopy, so the more you can cut away the better. But like I said, in this case we have to cut it away anyway because we are not putting this on like a bigger piece of fabric. We are only preserving exactly the shape of the flag fan. Next, we need to stiffen this piece of lace. To do this, I'm going to use my handy dandy rice starch. This is just a neutral pH rice starch that I get off of Amazon, and I have it linked in my supplies list. You've seen me use this rice starch before. I use it anytime I'm starching lace for my projects. Basically, you just measure out the water to starch ratio that it tells you on the bottle. You heat it up, and then you use that to saturate your lace project. While my fans were drying, I decided to go ahead and start preparing the wooden dowel handles. So these are just 1/2-inch wooden dowels, and then I got these little end caps also at the hobby store near me. I'm sanding down the dowels. I cut the dowels down to the size I wanted, and then I'm sanding them to make sure that they're nice and smooth, because these will be handles that we're holding in our hands, so we want them to be as smooth and nice as possible. We stick the end caps on the end, and those will actually need to get glued on, but it's important to make sure that they fit first. I'm using E6000, a very good go-to glue for this project. And then you can paint the handles whatever color you like. I chose gold for my project, so I have some gold acrylic paint, and I did go over these handles with multiple coats of paint. I believe I ended up doing about 3 coats. I would say at least 2 to be safe, but you could do a 3rd if you want to get it really good coverage. And each time you do a coat, obviously you let it dry in between. So now to attach the fan onto the handle, I'm using very small nails. It's important that the nails are not longer than your dowel is thick. So with a 1/2-inch dowel, I made sure to get nails that were 1/2 inch. They could be less as well, but you don't want them to stick out the other side. And there we have a beautiful Venetian Renaissance flag fan ready to be carried around by a very dear, elegant lady. Now these fans are such a delicate accessory item. In my experience, they do kind of give you a little bit of a breeze if you kind of twirl them around. Obviously not as much as like a really solid fan that's gonna really get the breeze moving, but they do a little bit for you and they look so elegant in the process. So it's a functional fashion accessory for someone who wants to look maybe a little fancy or high class. I really enjoyed this project, and thank you so much to my friend Jen who showed it off for me. Jen does a lot of Venetian costuming. If you find inspiration from this or any of my projects, please feel free to share it and tag me so I can see what you make. I'm Daisy Viktoria on all the social medias. My website is daisyviktoria.com, and a special thank you to my patrons over on Patreon who help to enable my vast array of projects. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye!